She found a woman's brassiere in his billionaire CEO husband pocket. His assistant called her, "She's pregnant." "How could you? After everything we've built together." "Olivia, please, I can explain." "Explain? I'm holding another woman's lingerie that fell out of your jacket pocket. What possible explanation could there be?" "It's not what you think. Don't you dare give me that cliché. Who is she, Alexander? Your assistant? Some intern? Or have you been seeing your ex-wife again?" The phone rings, cutting through their heated argument. Alexander glances at the screen. "I need to take this." "Of course you do." Olivia laughs bitterly. "Your mistress calling for round two?" Alexander answers, turning away. "Yes, Rebecca?" Olivia feels sick hearing his assistant's name. "I understand," Alexander says tensely. "Yes, she's here with me now." "No, I haven't had a chance to." "I see." He turns back to Olivia, his expression grave. "Madeline is in the hospital. She's pregnant, and there might be complications." Olivia stares at him in disbelief. "Madeline? Your ex-wife is pregnant? And what exactly does that have to do with this?" She holds up the pale pink brassiere, her hand trembling with rage. "Because it's hers." Olivia Morgan stared at the delicate lace brassiere dangling from her fingertips, her world crumbling around her. The expensive lingerie, certainly not hers, had fallen from her husband's suit jacket when she'd reached for it in their walk-in closet. The pale pink garment seemed to mock her with its presence, undeniable evidence of what she'd feared for months. "This can't be happening," she whispered, sinking onto the plush carpet of their penthouse bedroom. At 42, Olivia had believed her life was finally perfect. After years of struggling to build her interior design business, she'd found success and, more importantly, love with Alexander Blackwood, founder and CEO of Blackwood Innovations. Their whirlwind romance had culminated in marriage 3 years ago, and despite their busy careers, they'd created a life together that felt like a dream. Until now. The signs had been there: late nights at the office, mysterious weekend business trips, the growing emotional distance between them. But Olivia had dismissed her concerns, trusting the man who'd promised to love her forever. Now, holding physical evidence of his betrayal, she could no longer deny the truth. Her hands trembled as she reached for her phone. She needed to confront him, but the thought of hearing his voice made her physically ill. A text would have to suffice. "We need to talk. Tonight. Don't be late." She placed the brassiere on their bed, a silent accusation awaiting his return. The hours crawled by as Olivia paced their penthouse, rehearsing what she would say when Alexander walked through the door. Their home, once a sanctuary, now felt like a beautiful prison, filled with memories that cut like glass. Every photograph, every shared memento, seemed to taunt her with what she was about to lose. Olivia paused by the large windows overlooking Manhattan, remembering the day Alexander had first shown her this penthouse. "I want to build a life with you here," he'd said, his arms wrapped around her from behind as they gazed at the city lights. A real life. Not just success and status. She'd believed him then. She'd believed in the future they'd planned together. Weekend getaways to their Hamptons home, eventually cutting back on work to start a family, growing old surrounded by children and grandchildren. All of it now seemed like a cruel joke. At precisely 6 o'clock, the elevator doors opened, and Alexander stepped into the foyer. At 47, he remained strikingly handsome, tall and broad-shouldered with salt and pepper hair that only enhanced his appeal. His custom suit couldn't hide the exhaustion in his posture, but his gray eyes brightened when he saw her. "Liv," he said, smiling as he set down his briefcase, "you're home early." The familiar nickname, once endearing, now felt like another lie. Olivia crossed her arms, steeling herself against his charm. "I found something interesting today," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "In your jacket pocket." Alexander's brow furrowed in confusion. "What are you talking about?" "Follow me." She turned without waiting for a response, leading him to their bedroom where the damning evidence lay displayed on their king-sized bed. Alexander stopped in the doorway, his expression unreadable as he stared at the lingerie. "Care to explain?" Olivia asked, hating the tremor that had crept into her voice. "Liv, The shrill ring of his phone cut through the tension. Alexander glanced at the screen, then back at Olivia with an expression she couldn't decipher. I need to take this, he said quietly. Of course you do, she replied bitterly. Your mistress calling for round two? Alexander winced but answered the call, turning slightly away from her. Yes, Rebecca? Olivia felt sick hearing his assistant's name. Rebecca Chen, young, beautiful, ambitious, the perfect cliché. I understand, Alexander was saying. Yes, she's here with me now. No, I haven't had a chance to… I see. Yes, that complicates things. Olivia watched his shoulders tense as he listened, her anger building with each passing second. We'll be there as soon as possible, he finally said, ending the call. We? Olivia laughed humorlessly. There is no we anymore, Alexander. He turned to face her, his expression grave. Olivia, I know how this looks, but you need to listen to me. I've listened to enough lies, she snapped. Just tell me how long it's been going on. Do I know her? Is it Rebecca? Rebecca? Alexander looked genuinely confused. My assistant. God. No. Then who? Olivia demanded, gesturing to the brassiere. Whose is this? Alexander ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she'd always found endearing. Now it just seemed like another stalling tactic. It belongs to Madeline, he said finally. The name hit Olivia like a physical blow. Madeline, his ex-wife. The woman he'd been married to for 15 years before Olivia. The woman who'd left him heartbroken when she'd chosen her career over their marriage. Madeline, Olivia repeated, her voice hollow. You're sleeping with your ex-wife? No. Alexander moved toward her, stopping when she flinched away. Liv, please, it's not what you think. Then what is it? She demanded. Because from where I'm standing it looks pretty damn clear. Alexander took a deep breath. Madeline came to see me at the office 3 weeks ago. She was upset, crying. She'd spilled coffee on herself and Rebecca lent her some clothes to change into. The brassiere must have gotten mixed up with my things when I drove her home. You drove her home, Olivia echoed flatly. How considerate. She was in no condition to drive herself, Alexander insisted. Liv, Madeline is pregnant. The words hung in the air between them, each one a dagger to Olivia's heart. Pregnant, she whispered. And let me guess, you're the father. No. Alexander's vehemence startled her. God, no, I haven't touched Madeline in years. The baby is her boyfriend's, or was. He left when she told him about the pregnancy. Olivia stared at him, trying to process this information. So your ex-wife is pregnant and alone, and you've been, what? Comforting her? She has no one else, Alexander said quietly. Her parents are gone, and she's estranged from her sister. She came to me because she didn't know where else to turn. And you couldn't tell me this because… Alexander's gaze dropped to the floor. Because I knew how it would sound. My ex-wife back in my life needing my help. I was afraid you'd misinterpret, that you wouldn't understand. Well, congratulations, Olivia said bitterly. Your secrecy accomplished exactly what you were trying to avoid. I'm sorry, he said, and the genuine remorse in his voice made her chest ache. I should have trusted you with the truth. Before Olivia could respond, Alexander's phone chimed with a text message. He glanced at it, his expression shifting to alarm. It's Rebecca, he said. Madeline's been admitted to the hospital. There might be complications with the pregnancy. Olivia felt a surge of conflicting emotions, anger at the situation, concern for a woman she'd never met, and beneath it all, a deep hurt that her husband had kept such a significant secret. Go, she said finally. She needs you. Alexander hesitated. Come with me, he said suddenly. Meet Madeline. See for yourself that there's nothing between us. Please, Liv. I don't want secrets between us anymore. Olivia wanted to refuse, to tell him to leave and never come back, but something in his eyes, desperation, sincerity, love, made her pause. Fine, she said coldly, but this doesn't mean I believe you, and it certainly doesn't mean I forgive you. The drive to Manhattan Memorial Hospital passed in tense silence. Olivia stared out the window. watching the city lights blur as they sped through the evening traffic. Her mind raced with questions and doubts. Was she being naive? Was this elaborate story just a cover for an affair? Or was Alexander telling the truth, that he'd only been helping a woman from his past who had nowhere else to turn? I met Madeline when we were both 25, Alexander said suddenly, breaking the silence. She was brilliant, ambitious, an architect with dreams of designing skyscrapers. We were both so focused on our careers back then. Olivia didn't respond, but she was listening. Our marriage worked for a long time because we wanted the same things: success, recognition, financial security. But as we got older, I started wanting more. A family, roots, something that would outlast us. Madeline didn't. She was just hitting her stride professionally, getting international commissions. The idea of taking time off for children was unthinkable to her. He paused, navigating through a yellow light. Our divorce was amicable, all things considered. We wanted different futures, that's all. I hadn't seen her in years until she showed up at my office 3 weeks ago, crying and pregnant. And you didn't think this was something you should mention to your wife? Olivia asked, unable to keep the edge from her voice. Alexander sighed. I was going to tell you that very night, but you were in Boston for that hotel renovation project. Then when you got back, you were so exhausted, and I kept putting it off, telling myself I'd find the right moment. There is no right moment to tell your wife your pregnant ex-wife is back in your life, Olivia said. I know that now, Alexander admitted. I handled it badly. I was trying to protect everyone. You from unnecessary worry, Madeline from feeling like a burden. Instead, I've hurt the person I love most. The sincerity in his voice made Olivia's resolve waver slightly. Before she could respond, they pulled into the hospital parking garage. When they arrived at the hospital, Rebecca Chen was waiting in the lobby. The assistant's usual polished appearance was slightly disheveled, her expression anxious as she approached them. Mr. Blackwood, Mrs. Blackwood, she greeted them, her eyes widening slightly at Olivia's presence. Thank you for coming so quickly. How is she? Alexander asked. Stable for now, Rebecca replied. The doctors are concerned about her blood pressure. She's been asking for you. Alexander nodded, then turned to Olivia. Ready? No, she wasn't ready. She wasn't ready to meet the woman her husband had once loved, the woman who'd been secretly back in his life for weeks. But she nodded anyway, following him toward the elevators. As they waited, Rebecca leaned closer to Olivia. She's pregnant, she whispered urgently. 4 months along. The father abandoned her. Mr. Blackwood has been helping her find an apartment, set up doctor's appointments. Nothing inappropriate, I promise. Olivia studied the younger woman's earnest expression. Why are you telling me this? Because I respect you, Rebecca said simply. And because I've seen how much Mr. Blackwood loves you. He would never jeopardize that. Before Olivia could respond, the elevator arrived, and they stepped inside. As they ascended to the maternity floor, Olivia felt her anger giving way to uncertainty. If Alexander and Rebecca were both lying, it was an elaborate deception indeed. Room 412 was quiet except for the steady beep of monitors. Olivia hesitated in the doorway as Alexander approached the bed where a woman lay, her hands resting protectively over her slightly rounded abdomen. Madeline Blackwood, no, Madeline Carter, now, Olivia reminded herself, was still beautiful at 45. Her dark hair was streaked with premature silver, and fine lines framed her blue eyes, but she possessed a classic elegance that time couldn't diminish. Alex, Madeline said weakly, reaching for his hand. You came. Of course I came, he replied, his tone gentle but not intimate. How are you feeling? Better now, Madeline said. The doctors say the baby is fine, just a scare. Her gaze shifted to Olivia, standing awkwardly by the door. You must be Olivia. Alexander turned, extending his hand toward his wife. Yes, this is my wife, Olivia. Liv, this is Madeline. Olivia moved forward reluctantly, studying the woman who had once shared Alexander's life. Hello, Madeline. I'm so sorry to meet you under these circumstances, Madeline said, genuine regret in her voice. And I'm sorry for involving Alex in my mess. I didn't know where else to turn. The vulnerability in her expression was impossible to fake, and Olivia felt her suspicions beginning to crumble. It's, it's all right, she said, surprising herself with the words. I'm glad you're both okay. Madeline's eyes filled with tears. He talks about you all the time, you know. How talented you are, how kind. He never looked at me the way he looks at you. Olivia glanced at Alexander, who was watching her with a mixture of hope and apprehension. The doctors want to keep you overnight for observation, he told Madeline. Rebecca will stay with you, and I'll check in tomorrow. Madeline nodded, squeezing his hand gratefully before releasing it. Thank you, Alex, for everything. As they left the hospital room, Olivia felt the tension between them shifting, transforming into something more complex than simple anger or betrayal. I should have told you, Alexander said quietly as they walked toward the parking garage. I know that now. I didn't want to hurt you by bringing my past into our present. Secrets hurt more than honesty, Olivia replied. I thought I'd lost you, Alex. I thought everything we'd built together was a lie. He stopped walking, turning to face her fully. Nothing about my love for you is a lie, Liv. Nothing. The sincerity in his eyes made her throat tighten. Then why keep this from me? Did you think I wouldn't understand? I thought you might not trust that my feelings for Madeline are completely in the past, he admitted. Our marriage ended because she chose her career over having a family. I wanted children. She didn't. When she came to me, pregnant and abandoned, it felt like some cosmic joke. And now? Olivia asked. What does she want from you now? Just support, Alexander said. Friendship. She's scared, Liv. She never wanted to be a mother, and now she's facing it alone. Olivia thought about the woman in the hospital bed, cradling her unborn child. Despite everything, she felt a surge of empathy. She doesn't have to be alone, she said finally. We can help her, together. But no more secrets, Alexander. Not ever again. Relief washed over his features. I promise, he said, reaching for her hand. No more secrets. As they drove home through the quiet city streets, Olivia realized that the day's events had revealed not just Alexander's secret, but something about herself as well, a capacity for forgiveness she hadn't known she possessed. The pink brassiere still lay on their bed when they returned home, a reminder of how quickly trust could be shattered. Olivia picked it up, no longer seeing it as evidence of betrayal, but as a symbol of the complexity of human relationships. I'll return it to Rebecca tomorrow, Alexander said, watching her cautiously. Good idea, Olivia replied, setting it aside. And then maybe we should talk about what happens next. Next? Alexander's expression was guarded. With Madeline, Olivia clarified, she's going to need support through this pregnancy and beyond. If we're going to help her, we should have a plan. Alexander's face softened with surprise and gratitude. You're extraordinary, you know that? I'm practical, she corrected him. And I understand what it's like to feel alone. No one should have to go through pregnancy and new motherhood without support. Alexander moved closer, tentatively wrapping his arms around her. I love you, Olivia Morgan Blackwood. More than I can ever express. She allowed herself to lean into his embrace, the familiar scent of his cologne, a comfort after the emotional turmoil of the day. I love you too, she whispered against his chest. But if you ever keep something like this from me again, I won't, he promised, pressing a kiss to her forehead. No more secrets between us. Ever. As they stood together in the quiet of their bedroom, Olivia knew that trust, once broken, would take time to fully rebuild. But she also knew that what they had was worth fighting for. A love strong enough to weather misunderstandings, past relationships, and even a stray piece of lingerie that had nearly destroyed everything. The following weeks brought significant changes to their lives. Madeline was discharged from the hospital with strict instructions to reduce stress and monitor her blood pressure. Without family support and with her savings dwindling, she faced an uncertain future. It was Olivia who suggested converting the guest house on their Hamptons property into a temporary home for Madeline, close enough to provide support, but separate enough to maintain boundaries. Are you sure about this? Alexander had asked, clearly surprised by her proposal. No, Olivia had admitted honestly, but it feels like the right thing to do. The day they brought Madeline to the guest house, Olivia felt a strange mix of emotions: apprehension, compassion, and an unexpected protectiveness toward this woman who had once been a stranger, then a perceived threat, and now was something else entirely. "This is too much," Madeline said, standing in the center of the beautifully appointed living room that Olivia had redesigned specifically for her. "I can't accept this level of generosity." "You can, and you will," Olivia replied firmly. "For the baby's sake, if not your own." Madeline's eyes filled with tears. "I never thought I'd be in this position. Pregnant, alone, dependent on others. It's not who I am." "Sometimes life forces us to become different versions of ourselves," Olivia said, surprising herself with the insight. "The question is whether we fight it or embrace it." Alexander, who had been bringing in Madeline's suitcases, paused in the doorway, watching the two women with an expression of wonder. "What?" Olivia asked, noticing his gaze. "Nothing," he said, smiling slightly. "Just thinking how lucky I am to have married someone with such a generous heart." As Madeline's pregnancy progressed, an unexpected friendship began to form between the two women. Olivia found herself drawn to Madeline's sharp wit and creative mind. She was, after all, a successful architect who had designed buildings around the world. Their conversations about design and aesthetics often lasted for hours, transcending the awkwardness of their unusual situation. For Alexander, watching his wife and ex-wife develop a genuine connection was both bewildering and touching. The two most significant women in his life, once strangers connected only through him, were forging their own relationship independent of his involvement. "I never expected this," he confessed to Olivia one evening as they watched Madeline sketching nursery designs on the patio. "You two getting along?" "Neither did I," Olivia replied. "But she's not the villain I imagined. She's just a woman who made different choices." Those choices became a frequent topic of conversation as Madeline's due date approached. One rainy afternoon, as Olivia helped her organize baby clothes in the guest house, Madeline broached the subject directly. "I never wanted children when I was with Alex," she said, folding a tiny onesie with surprising tenderness. "My career was everything to me. I couldn't imagine sacrificing my ambitions for motherhood." "And now?" Olivia asked, arranging stuffed animals in the crib they had assembled together the previous weekend. Madeline rested her hands on her prominent belly, now 7 months along. "Now I'm terrified," she admitted, "but also curious. I keep wondering who this little person will be, what traits she'll inherit, what dreams she'll have." "She?" Olivia raised an eyebrow. "You found out the gender?" A small smile played at Madeline's lips. "Last week, a girl. I haven't told anyone yet, not even Alex." "He'll be thrilled for you," Olivia said, surprised by the genuine warmth in her voice. "He always wanted a daughter?" Madeline's expression grew somber. "That's what makes this so ironic. I denied him the family he wanted, and now I'm having a child with a man who wanted nothing to do with fatherhood." She sighed, lowering herself carefully into the rocking chair. "Life has a twisted sense of humor." Olivia hesitated before asking the question that had been on her mind for weeks. "Do you regret it? Choosing your career over starting a family with Alexander?" "No," Madeline answered without hesitation. "We wanted different things. Staying together would have made us both miserable eventually." She met Olivia's gaze directly. "He found the right partner in you. I see how he looks at you. Like you're the answer to a question he's been asking his whole life." The honesty in her words touched Olivia deeply. "Thank you for saying that." "It's just the truth," Madeline replied, then grimaced slightly, pressing a hand to her side. "Another kick?" Olivia asked. "This child is determined to be a soccer player," Madeline laughed. "Here, feel." Without thinking, Olivia placed her hand on Madeline's belly, gasping when she felt the strong movement beneath her palm. The intimacy of the moment, sharing this miracle with a woman who had once been a stranger, a perceived threat, wasn't lost on her. "Amazing," she whispered. "Olivia," Madeline said hesitantly, "there's something I've been wanting to ask you." "What is it?" Would you and Alexander consider being my daughter's godparents? The question hung in the air between them. I know it's unconventional, given our history, but I can't think of two people I'd trust more with her future. Olivia felt tears spring to her eyes, unexpected emotion welling up inside her. I'd be honored, she said softly. But shouldn't you ask Alexander separately? I already know what he'll say, Madeline smiled. He's been buying children's books for weeks. I found a stack of them hidden in his office when I stopped by Blackwood Innovations last week. The image of Alexander secretly collecting books for Madeline's unborn daughter made Olivia's heart swell with love for her husband. Despite their rocky beginning, this strange situation had revealed depths to him she might never have discovered otherwise. That evening, as they prepared dinner together in their kitchen, Olivia told Alexander about Madeline's request. Godparents, he repeated, setting down the knife he'd been using to chop vegetables. Both of us? She trusts us, Olivia said simply, and I think she's realizing she'll need more support than she initially thought. Alexander was quiet for a moment, his expression thoughtful. Are you comfortable with that level of involvement? It's a significant commitment. Olivia considered the question carefully. 6 weeks ago, she'd found another woman's lingerie in her husband's pocket and assumed the worst. Now she was contemplating becoming a godmother to his ex-wife's child. Life truly was unpredictable. I am, she said finally. I think everything happens for a reason, Alex. Maybe this is our chance to be part of a child's life, even if it's not quite how we imagined it. Alexander's eyes softened with understanding. They had tried for a baby of their own during their first year of marriage, but without success. After several disappointing months, they had agreed to take a break from actively trying, focusing instead on their careers and relationship. You'd make an incredible godmother, he said, pulling her into his arms. And maybe someday. Maybe, she agreed, resting her head against his chest. But for now, this feels right. 2 weeks later, their commitment was put to the test when Madeline called in the middle of the night, her voice tight with pain. The baby's coming, she gasped. Too early. Something's wrong. Alexander drove while Olivia sat in the back seat with Madeline, timing contractions that were coming far too quickly for a woman only 32 weeks pregnant. By the time they reached the hospital, Madeline was pale and shaking, her grip on Olivia's hand almost painful. Don't leave me, she whispered as medical staff transferred her to a gurney. We're right here, Olivia promised, looking to Alexander for confirmation. Both of us, he agreed, his face etched with concern. The next 12 hours were a blur of medical terms, urgent consultations and tense waiting. Preeclampsia, the doctors explained, a dangerous condition causing high blood pressure and potential organ damage. The baby needed to be delivered immediately to save both mother and child. In the surgical waiting room, Alexander paced restlessly while Olivia sat still, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She'll be all right, she said, trying to convince herself as much as him. They both will. Alexander paused his pacing, running a hand through his disheveled hair. I keep thinking about how I almost sent her away that day she came to my office. If I'd turned her away. But you didn't, Olivia reminded him gently. You helped her, even knowing how complicated it would make things. Because of you, he said, sitting beside her and taking her hand. Your compassion. Your strength. It inspires me to be better, Liv. When I think about how close I came to losing you over that misunderstanding. We're past that now, she assured him, squeezing his hand. And when this is over, we'll have a goddaughter to spoil. The surgeon appeared 3 hours later, still in scrubs, his expression serious but not grim. Ms. Carter is stable, he reported. The cesarean was successful, though we had some complications with bleeding that we've now controlled. And the baby? Alexander asked, his voice hoarse with worry. 4 pounds, 2 ounces, small but fighting. Her lungs are underdeveloped, so she's on a ventilator in the NICU. The next 48 hours will be critical, but she's showing good signs. Relief washed over them both. When can we see them? Olivia asked. Ms. Carter is in recovery now. She's been asking for you both. As for the baby, immediate family only in the NICU for now. Alexander and Olivia exchanged glances. We're her godparents, Alexander explained. And the only family she has here. The surgeon nodded in understanding. I'll make arrangements. One at a time, though, and only for a few minutes. Madeline was groggy but conscious when they entered her recovery room. Her face was drawn with exhaustion, but her eyes lit up when she saw them. She's here, she whispered. My daughter. She's beautiful, Olivia said, having glimpsed the tiny infant through the NICU window. So small, but so perfect. Have you thought of a name? Alexander asked, standing at the foot of the bed. Madeline nodded weakly. Sophia. Sophia Grace Carter. She reached for Olivia's hand. They won't let me see her yet. Will you go? Tell her I'm here, that I'm waiting for her? Olivia felt tears prick her eyes at the trust implicit in this request. Of course I will. In the NICU, Olivia stood beside the incubator that housed tiny Sophia, marveling at the miniature features that somehow already showed hints of Madeline. A nurse helped her place her hand through the opening in the side, allowing her to gently touch the baby's arm. Hello, Sophia, she whispered. I'm Olivia. Your mom is resting, but she wants you to know how much she loves you. We all do. As if in response, the baby's tiny fingers curled reflexively around Olivia's pinky, a grip so small yet so determined that it took her breath away. She's a fighter, the nurse commented. You can see it already. Yes, Olivia agreed, feeling an unexpected surge of protectiveness. She certainly is. The days that followed established a new routine. While Madeline recovered from her surgery, Alexander and Olivia took shifts at the hospital, ensuring that both mother and daughter always had someone with them. They coordinated with doctors, arranged for Madeline's belongings to be brought from the guest house, and kept her company during the long hours when she couldn't be with Sophia. 2 weeks after her birth, Sophia was strong enough to breathe without assistance, a milestone that brought tears of joy to all three adults. The first time Madeline was able to hold her daughter properly, skin to skin, Olivia captured the moment in a photograph that would later be framed in both their homes. I never thought I could love someone this much, Madeline confessed as she cradled the tiny infant. It's terrifying. That's parenthood, Alexander said softly. The most wonderful terror you'll ever experience. His words hung in the air, carrying weight beyond their immediate context. Later that evening, as they drove home for a brief respite, Olivia found herself reflecting on them. You would have been an amazing father, she said quietly. Alexander glanced at her, surprise evident in his expression. Would have been? Are you still interested in having children? She asked. After everything that's happened? He was silent for a moment, considering. Watching Madeline with Sophia, seeing that bond form, it's reminded me of what I always wanted, but only if it's something you want to live. Olivia looked out at the city lights blurring past the car window. I think I do, she admitted. Seeing that tiny hand wrap around my finger, I felt something I've never felt before. Alexander reached across the console to take her hand. Then maybe when things settle down, we could try again, or explore other options if necessary. I'd like that, Olivia said, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. Very much. By the time Sophia was a month old, she had gained enough weight to be discharged from the hospital. Madeline, still recovering from complications of her surgery, accepted Olivia and Alexander's invitation to stay in their penthouse temporarily, where they had converted Alexander's home office into a nursery. The arrangement was meant to last a few weeks at most, but as those weeks stretched into months, none of them seemed in a hurry to change it. They fell into a comfortable rhythm, Alexander and Olivia working during the day while Madeline cared for Sophia, then all three adults sharing evening duties. Weekends were spent together, navigating the challenges and joys of infant care as a unit. It was an unconventional family structure by any standard, but it worked. Madeline regained her strength and gradually began taking on freelance architectural projects she could complete from home. Alexander delegated more responsibilities at Blackwood Innovations, prioritizing family time in a way he never had before. And Olivia found herself flourishing, both in her design business and in her unexpected role as godmother and co-parent. Do you think people find our arrangement strange? Olivia asked Alexander one night as they lay in bed. the soft sounds of Madeline singing to Sophia drifting through the baby monitor they'd installed. Probably, he admitted. But does it matter? Olivia considered this. No, she decided. It doesn't. Not if it works for us. And does it? Work for you? Alexander propped himself up on one elbow, studying her face in the dim light. Strangely, yes, she said. 6 months ago, if someone had told me I'd be living with your ex-wife and her baby, I'd have thought they were insane. But now, I can't imagine our lives any other way. Alexander smiled, leaning down to kiss her softly. Neither can I. 6 months after Sophia's birth, on a warm spring evening, the three adults sat on the penthouse terrace while the baby slept peacefully in her bassinet nearby. I've been offered a position with an architectural firm in Boston, Madeline announced, swirling the wine in her glass. A partner track, heading their sustainable design division. Alexander and Olivia exchanged glances, both feeling a surprising pang at the thought of Madeline and Sophia leaving. That's wonderful, Olivia said sincerely. It's a perfect fit for your expertise. When would you start? Alexander asked. That's the thing, Madeline replied. I've decided to turn it down. What? Why? Alexander looked genuinely confused. It's an incredible opportunity. Madeline smiled, looking between them. Because I've realized something important these past months. Success isn't just about career achievements. It's about having people in your life who truly care about you. She reached for both their hands. Sophia and I have found our family here. I don't want to take her away from that. From both of you. Are you sure? Olivia asked, touched by the sentiment but concerned. We don't want to hold you back. You've done the opposite, Madeline assured her. You've shown me how to balance ambition with connection. I've accepted a local position instead. Less prestigious but more flexible. And she hesitated. I found a small house for sale just a few blocks from here. Close enough for frequent visits, but with our own space. The relief Olivia felt was immediate and profound. She had grown to love little Sophia fiercely, and the thought of the baby moving far away had been more painful than she'd been willing to admit. We'll help you move, Alexander offered, and decorate. Between an architect, a CEO, and an interior designer, that house won't know what hit it. They laughed together, the sound mingling with the city noises drifting up from below. As Olivia looked at the people gathered on her terrace, her husband, his ex-wife, who had become a dear friend, and the sleeping baby who had captured all their hearts, she marveled at life's unexpected turns. 6 months ago, she had found another woman's lingerie in her husband's pocket and assumed the worst. That moment of crisis could have ended her marriage. Instead, it had expanded her understanding of family, of forgiveness, and of her own capacity for love. When Sophia stirred in her bassinet, making the soft noises that preceded waking, all three adults instinctively moved toward her. Olivia reached her first, lifting the baby into her arms with practiced ease. "Hello, beautiful girl," she cooed, breathing in the sweet scent of baby shampoo and milk. "Did you have good dreams?" Sophia blinked up at her with eyes that were beginning to shift from newborn blue to a shade remarkably similar to Madeline's. Her tiny hand reached up, patting Olivia's cheek in what felt like deliberate affection. "I think that's a yes," Alexander said, smiling as he joined them. As the four of them stood together in the fading light, Olivia realized that family wasn't always created in expected ways. Sometimes it formed in the aftermath of misunderstandings, in the space where judgment gave way to compassion, where past and present collided to create something entirely new. And sometimes the greatest gifts came disguised as our worst fears, like a stray piece of lingerie that had nearly destroyed everything, but instead had led them here, to this moment of perfect, improbable harmony. The move to Madeline's new house happened gradually over the next month. Olivia threw herself into the design process, collaborating with Madeline to create spaces that were both functional for a new mother and reflective of her sophisticated taste. Alexander handled the logistics, coordinating movers and contractors with the same efficiency he applied to corporate acquisitions. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" Olivia asked him one evening as they reviewed paint samples for Sophia's nursery. "What do you mean?" Alexander looked up from the color swatches spread across their dining table. This whole process, building a home for them. I've never seen you so invested in a renovation project before. Alexander considered this, then nodded slowly. I suppose I am. It feels good to create something tangible, something that will last. He picked up a soft sage green sample. What about this one? It reminds me of that park in London where we had our first date. Olivia smiled at the memory. Hyde Park in spring. Perfect choice. The day Madeline and Sophia officially moved into their new home was bittersweet. The penthouse felt strangely quiet without the baby's coos and cries, without Madeline's architectural drawings spread across the coffee table. It's odd, isn't it? Alexander said that night as they ate dinner alone for the first time in months. I keep expecting to hear the baby monitor. I know, Olivia agreed. I almost went to check on Sophia twice today before remembering she's not here. They were silent for a moment, the absence of their unexpected housemates more palpable than either had anticipated. We could try again, Alexander said quietly. For a baby of our own. Olivia met his gaze across the table. I'd like that. That night, their lovemaking had a new dimension, a tenderness tinged with hope, with possibility. As they lay together afterward, Olivia traced patterns on Alexander's chest, thinking about the future they might create together. What if it doesn't happen for us? She asked softly. What if we can't conceive? Alexander pulled her closer. Then we'll explore other options. Adoption, surrogacy, or maybe being Sophia's godparents will be enough. The important thing is that we're together, building a life that matters. Olivia nodded against his shoulder. You're right. And speaking of Sophia, we promised to babysit tomorrow night so Madeline can attend that awards dinner. Our first official godparent duty, Alexander smiled. I've already picked out which books I'm going to read to her. The following evening, they arrived at Madeline's house armed with overnight bags and Alexander's carefully selected stack of children's books. Madeline greeted them in a stunning black evening gown, looking more like her pre-pregnancy self than she had in months. You look amazing, Olivia said sincerely. Thanks to you, Madeline replied, gesturing to the dress. Your stylist friend worked miracles. Sophia's already fed and bathed, she continued, leading them to the nursery where the baby was contentedly playing in her crib. She should go down around 7. All the emergency numbers are on the fridge. And I've pumped enough milk for… Madeline, Alexander interrupted gently. We've got this. Go enjoy your evening. You've earned it. She hesitated, then nodded. You're right. I'm being ridiculous. She leaned over the crib to kiss Sophia's forehead. Be good for your godparents, little one. After Madeline left, Alexander and Olivia settled into the comfortable routine they'd established during their months of co-parenting. Alexander prepared a bottle while Olivia played with Sophia on the living room floor, marveling at how much the baby had grown and developed in her short life. She's trying to roll over, Olivia called to Alexander. Come see. He joined them on the floor, watching as Sophia struggled to flip from her back to her stomach, her tiny face scrunched in concentration. That's it, sweetheart, he encouraged. You can do it. With one final effort, Sophia succeeded, rolling onto her stomach and immediately looking surprised at her own achievement. Her wide-eyed expression of triumph made both adults laugh with delight. Did you see that? Alexander exclaimed. She's a genius. Clearly, Olivia agreed, snapping a photo to send to Madeline. Harvard will be calling any day now. The evening passed in a blur of bottles, diaper changes, and bedtime stories. Alexander read Good Night Moon with such dramatic flair that Olivia had to stifle her laughter to avoid waking the finally sleeping baby. As they tiptoed out of the nursery, Olivia felt a wave of contentment wash over her. This was what family felt like, these quiet moments of shared joy, of working together to care for someone who depended on you completely. They settled on Madeline's comfortable sofa, the baby monitor on the coffee table between them, and opened a bottle of wine she'd left for them. We're pretty good at this, Alexander said, clinking his glass against hers. We are, Olivia agreed. Though I'm not sure we should get too cocky. One evening of successful babysitting doesn't make us parenting experts. True, he conceded, but it's a start. They fell into comfortable conversation, discussing work projects, plans for the weekend, the renovation of their Hamptons house. It felt like the early days of their relationship, that easy connection, the sense that they could talk about anything and everything. When Madeline returned just after midnight, she found them curled together on the sofa, fast asleep. She stood in the doorway for a moment, watching them with a mixture of affection and something like envy. "Hey," she said softly, touching Olivia's shoulder. "I'm home." Olivia blinked awake, momentarily disoriented. "Madeline, how was the dinner?" "Wonderful," she replied, slipping off her heels with a sigh of relief. "I won the Urban Innovation Award." "That's fantastic," Alexander said, sitting up and rubbing his eyes. "Congratulations." "How was Sophia?" Madeline asked, glancing toward the nursery. "Perfect," Olivia assured her. "She rolled over for the first time. I sent you the video. And she went down without a fuss." "Thank you both," Madeline said sincerely. "Not just for tonight, but for everything. I don't know how I would have managed these past months without you." "That's what family's for," Alexander said simply. The word hung in the air between them. Family. Not conventional by any means, but family nonetheless. As they gathered their things to leave, Madeline hugged them both. "Same time next week?" she asked. "I have that client presentation on Thursday evening." "We'll be here," Olivia promised. The walk back to their penthouse was pleasant in the cool night air. Alexander took Olivia's hand, intertwining their fingers as they strolled through the quiet streets. "I've been thinking," he said after a while, "about what you said earlier, about what if we can't have a baby of our own." "And?" Olivia prompted when he paused. "And I realized something. We already have a family. It might not look like what we expected, but it's real and it's ours." Olivia squeezed his hand. "You're right. Though that doesn't mean we should stop trying for a baby." "Absolutely not," he agreed with a grin. "In fact, I think we should try again as soon as we get home." She laughed, leaning into his side. "I like the way you think, Mr. Blackwood." 3 months later, on a crisp autumn morning, Olivia sat on the edge of their bathtub, staring at the pregnancy test in her hands. 2 pink lines. Positive. After more than a year of trying, of disappointment and renewed hope, they had finally succeeded. She pressed a hand to her still flat stomach, overwhelmed by a surge of emotions. Joy, fear, disbelief, gratitude, a baby, their baby. When Alexander returned from his morning run, she was waiting in the kitchen, the test hidden behind her back. "Good run?" she asked, trying to keep her voice casual. "Great," he replied, pouring himself a glass of water. "Though I think I'm getting too old for that hill in the park." "Well, you'd better get used to it," Olivia said. "You'll need to stay in shape to keep up with 2 children." Alexander paused mid-sip. 2 children. Olivia brought the test out from behind her back, holding it up for him to see. "Sophia, and this little one." For a moment, Alexander just stared at the test, his expression blank with shock. Then his face transformed with such pure joy that Olivia felt tears spring to her eyes. "We're having a baby?" he whispered, crossing the kitchen in 2 long strides to stand before her. "We're having a baby," she confirmed, laughing as he lifted her off her feet in an exuberant embrace. "When? How far along? Have you seen a doctor?" The questions tumbled out as he set her gently back on her feet, his hands moving to cradle her face. "I just found out this morning," she explained. "Based on my calculations, about 6 weeks. I'll make a doctor's appointment today." Alexander knelt before her, pressing his lips to her stomach through her silk robe. "Hello in there," he murmured. "We've been waiting for you for a very long time." The tenderness of the gesture made Olivia's heart swell. This was the man she'd fallen in love with. Passionate, caring, capable of such profound emotion. How could she ever have doubted him? "Should we tell Madeline?" she asked as Alexander stood. "Let's wait until after the first trimester," he suggested. "Just to be safe." Olivia nodded in agreement. 12 weeks, though I'm not sure how I'll keep it secret that long. I already feel different." "You look different," Alexander said, his eyes soft with wonder. "You're glowing." She rolled her eyes at the cliché but couldn't help smiling. That's just sweat from trying not to throw up this morning. Beautiful either way, he insisted, pulling her close again. The following weeks were a delicate balance of excitement and caution. Olivia's first doctor's appointment confirmed the pregnancy and established a due date in early May. Each milestone, the first ultrasound, hearing the heartbeat, reaching the 10-week mark, brought them closer to the moment when they could share their news. They continued their weekly babysitting sessions with Sophia, who was now crawling and beginning to pull herself up on furniture. Watching her develop filled Olivia with anticipation for her own child's growth. "Do you think they'll be friends?" she asked Alexander one evening as they watched Sophia determinedly pursuing a rolling ball across Madeline's living room floor. "Sophia and our baby?" "Absolutely," he replied. "More like cousins than anything else." The thought warmed Olivia. Her child would have an extended family from the very beginning, unconventional though it might be. When they finally reached the 12-week mark, they invited Madeline over for dinner to share their news. Sophia, now nearly 10 months old, came along, babbling happily in her mother's arms as they entered the penthouse. "Something smells amazing," Madeline commented, handing Sophia to Alexander while she removed her coat. "Olivia's been cooking all afternoon," he replied, bouncing the baby on his hip. "It's a special occasion." "Oh?" Madeline raised an eyebrow. "What are we celebrating?" Olivia and Alexander exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. "Actually," Olivia said, unable to contain her smile any longer, "we wanted to tell you something." Madeline looked between them, her expression curious. "You're moving? Changing jobs? What's going on?" "We're pregnant," Alexander announced, his free arm wrapping around Olivia's waist. "Due in May." For a moment, Madeline was perfectly still, her face unreadable. Then she broke into a radiant smile. "That's wonderful," she exclaimed, embracing Olivia carefully. "I'm so happy for you both. Truly." "We wanted you to be the first to know," Olivia said, "since you and Sophia are such an important part of our lives." "Did you hear that, Sophia?" Madeline said to her daughter, who was contentedly playing with Alexander's tie. "You're going to have a little friend to play with." The baby responded with a stream of nonsensical syllables that made all three adults laugh. "I think she approves," Alexander said. Over dinner, they discussed the pregnancy, sharing the ultrasound photos and talking about their hopes and plans. Madeline offered advice from her own experience: which doctors to see, which baby products were worth the investment, how to manage morning sickness. "I'm so glad you have each other for this," she said sincerely. "Having a baby is incredible, but doing it alone," she shook her head. "It's not easy." "You're not alone," Olivia reminded her. "You have us." "And I'm grateful every day for that," Madeline replied. "Which reminds me, Sophia's first birthday is coming up next month. I'd like to have a small celebration at my place. Nothing elaborate, just family." "Family," Alexander repeated, smiling at the word. "We wouldn't miss it." As the evening wound down, Olivia found herself watching Alexander with Sophia, marveling at his natural ease with the baby. He would be an amazing father, patient, playful, present in a way her own father never had been. "Penny for your thoughts," Madeline said, joining her on the sofa while Alexander helped Sophia practice her wobbly standing in the center of the living room. "Just thinking about how life takes unexpected turns," Olivia replied. "A year ago, I never could have imagined this scenario." Madeline followed her gaze to Alexander and Sophia. "He was always meant to be a father. It was the one thing we truly disagreed on during our marriage." "And now?" Olivia asked. "Now I understand what I couldn't then," Madeline said softly. "There's nothing quite like seeing your child smile at you for the first time or feeling those tiny fingers wrap around yours. I was so afraid of losing myself in motherhood that I never considered what I might find." Olivia placed a hand on her still flat stomach. "I'm a little afraid too," she admitted, "of how much will change." "Everything changes," Madeline agreed. "But not all change is loss. Sometimes it's transformation." She smiled as Sophia took a tentative step toward them, Alexander hovering protectively behind her. "Look at us, ex-wife and current wife, sharing parenting advice. If that's not transformation, I don't know what is." As Olivia's pregnancy progressed, The bonds between the three adults and baby Sophia continued to strengthen. They celebrated Sophia's first birthday with a small gathering at Madeline's house, complete with a cake that the birthday girl smashed with gleeful abandon. Alexander captured the moment on video, Sophia's face and hands covered in frosting, as all three adults laughed. "That's one for the family album," he said, reviewing the footage. "Speaking of family," Madeline said later, as they cleaned up after the party, "have you told your parents about the baby yet?" Alexander and Olivia exchanged glances. "We're flying to Chicago next weekend to tell my mother in person," Olivia explained. "And Alexander's parents are coming from London the week after." "Are you nervous?" Madeline asked. "About how they'll react to all of this?" She gestured vaguely, encompassing their unconventional arrangement. "A little," Olivia admitted. "My mother is fairly traditional. She might find it strange that we're so close with Alexander's ex-wife." "My parents will be fine," Alexander said confidently. "They've always been pragmatic. They'll care more about the baby than about who we socialize with." Madeline nodded, but Olivia noticed a flicker of something, concern, uncertainty, cross her face. "What is it?" she asked. Madeline hesitated. I don't want to complicate things for you. If your families find our situation uncomfortable, I would understand if you needed to create some distance." "That's not going to happen," Alexander said firmly. "You and Sophia are part of our lives, period." "He's right," Olivia agreed. "Besides, once they meet you and this little charmer," she tickled Sophia, who giggled in response, "they'll understand." The trip to Chicago proved more challenging than anticipated. Olivia's mother, Eleanor Morgan, was indeed thrilled about the baby but visibly confused by the stories about Sophia and Madeline. "Let me get this straight," she said over dinner at her elegant Lincoln Park home. "You regularly babysit your husband's ex-wife's baby, and this woman lives a few blocks from you?" "Madeline is a friend, Mom," Olivia explained patiently. "And Sophia is our goddaughter." Eleanor raised a perfectly manicured eyebrow. "Friendship with your husband's ex-wife. How modern." Alexander, sensing Olivia's frustration, stepped in smoothly. "It's unconventional, I know, but life rarely follows the paths we expect. Madeline needed support during a difficult time, and in helping her, we discovered a meaningful friendship." "And you're comfortable with this arrangement?" Eleanor asked her daughter directly. "More than comfortable," Olivia replied. "I'm grateful for it. Sophia is a joy, and Madeline has become one of my closest friends." Eleanor studied her daughter's face for a long moment, then sighed. "Well, if you're happy, that's what matters, though I can't say I understand it." "You will," Olivia assured her, "when you meet them." The visit with Alexander's parents the following week went more smoothly. Richard and Margaret Blackwood, both successful academics, approached the situation with analytical curiosity rather than judgment. "Fascinating family dynamic," Richard commented after hearing their story. "Rather like the extended family structures in certain Polynesian cultures." Margaret was more practical. "Does the arrangement work for everyone involved? Is the child well cared for? Are boundaries respected?" When they answered affirmatively to all three questions, she nodded with satisfaction. "Then it sounds perfectly reasonable to me." As they prepared to leave, Margaret took Olivia aside. "I always worried that Alexander's desire for children would go unfulfilled," she confided. "After his marriage to Madeline ended, he seemed to accept that parenthood might not be in his future. Seeing him now, with you, with this baby on the way, even with his goddaughter, I can't tell you how happy it makes me." Olivia was touched by her mother-in-law's words. "He's going to be an amazing father." "Yes," Margaret agreed. "And you, my dear, are going to be a wonderful mother. You already are, in many ways." The comment stayed with Olivia long after they returned to New York. Was she already a mother, in some sense? Not to Sophia, Madeline was unquestionably her mother, but in the way she helped care for the child, in the love she felt for her. These thoughts were still on her mind when she arrived at her 20-week ultrasound appointment. Alexander met her at the doctor's office, having rescheduled an important board meeting to be there. "Ready to find out if we're having a boy or a girl?" he asked, squeezing her hand as they waited to be called. "Actually," Olivia said, "I've been thinking. Would you mind if we kept it a surprise? Alexander looked surprised. You don't want to know? I think I'd like one big revelation to look forward to on the day, she explained. But if you really want to find out… No, he interrupted. I like the idea. A surprise it is. The ultrasound itself was magical. Their baby clearly visible now, moving and kicking, the heartbeat strong and steady. The technician carefully avoided revealing the gender, though she smiled knowingly when they explained their preference. Everything looks perfect, she assured them. Healthy development, good size. You've got a strong little one in there. As they left the appointment, clutching new ultrasound photos, Alexander suggested they stop by Madeline's office to share the news that all was well. Madeline had recently started working for a prestigious architectural firm in Manhattan, designing sustainable urban housing projects. They found her in a conference room, surrounded by blueprints and scale models. Her face lit up when she saw them. How was the appointment? She asked eagerly. Perfect, Olivia reported. Everything's developing right on schedule. Did you find out the sex? Madeline asked. We decided to wait, Alexander explained. We want to be surprised. Madeline smiled approvingly. That's what I should have done. The moment they told me Sophia was a girl, I started overthinking everything. How to raise a strong daughter, how to protect her from gender stereotypes, how to be a good female role model. And now? Olivia asked. Now I realize that most of parenting is figuring it out as you go along, Madeline replied. All the planning in the world can't prepare you for the reality of this tiny person who has their own personality from day one. As if to illustrate her point, Madeline's phone chimed with a text. She glanced at it and laughed. Speaking of which, Sophia's nanny just informed me that my daughter has decided clothing is optional today and keeps removing her diaper. The joys of toddlerhood, Alexander chuckled. You laugh now, Madeline warned him good-naturedly. Just wait until it's your turn. The remainder of Olivia's pregnancy passed in a blur of preparations. They converted their guest bedroom into a nursery, with Madeline offering architectural input and Olivia applying her design expertise. The result was a serene space in soft greens and yellows, gender-neutral but warm and inviting. Alexander threw himself into practical preparations, researching car seats and strollers with the same thoroughness he applied to corporate acquisitions, attending every birthing class and doctor's appointment, reading parenting books late into the night. You know we don't have to master everything before the baby arrives, Olivia teased him one evening, finding him surrounded by baby-proofing supplies he was testing on their kitchen cabinets. I just want to be prepared, he replied, looking slightly sheepish. I don't want to let you or the baby down. Olivia sat beside him on the floor, her now prominent belly making the movement awkward. You could never let us down, she said softly. You're already an amazing father. I see it every time you're with Sophia. Alexander's expression softened. That means more to me than you know. As her due date approached, Olivia found herself increasingly grateful for Madeline's friendship and guidance. The other woman's practical advice about everything from hospital packing to postpartum recovery was invaluable. I wish I'd had someone to tell me all this, Madeline said one afternoon as they sorted through tiny clothes in the nursery. My mother died when I was in college and I never had close female friends with children. You had the nurses at the hospital, Olivia pointed out. For a few days, Madeline agreed. Then I was on my own. If you and Alexander hadn't stepped in, she shook her head, I don't know how I would have managed. Well, I'll have you, Olivia said, folding a tiny onesie. And Alexander. And my mother's flying in for 2 weeks after the birth. And don't forget my mother, Alexander added, appearing in the doorway with a tray of tea. She's already booked her flight from London. Surrounded by grandmothers, Madeline smiled. This baby is going to be thoroughly spoiled. Speaking of spoiling, Alexander said, setting down the tray, Sophia's been asking for her godmother. Something about a promised trip to the park? Right, Olivia said, struggling to her feet with Alexander's help. At 8 months pregnant, even simple movements had become challenging. We're going to feed the ducks. Want to join us? Can't, he replied regretfully. Board meeting in an hour. But take pictures? Always, Olivia promised, kissing him goodbye. At the park, Olivia watched Sophia toddle excitedly toward the pond. Madeline keeping a careful hold on her hand. At 18 months, Sophia was a bundle of energy and curiosity, her dark curls bouncing as she moved. Ducks! She exclaimed, pointing at the birds gliding across the water. That's right, sweetheart, Madeline said. Can you say duck? Do, Sophia replied triumphantly. Olivia laughed, easing herself onto a nearby bench. Close enough. As they fed the ducks with seed purchased from a park vendor, bread being harmful to the birds, as Madeline had explained to Sophia, Olivia felt a strange tightening in her abdomen. She placed a hand on her belly, breathing deeply until the sensation passed. You okay? Madeline asked, noticing her discomfort. Just Braxton Hicks, Olivia assured her. I've been having them on and off for a week. Madeline looked unconvinced. How often? Not often. Maybe a couple times an hour. Madeline said, her expression thoughtful. Let me know if they start coming more regularly. They continued their outing with Sophia delighting in the ducks and squirrels. Olivia experienced 2 more tightening sensations, but they were mild and irregular, nothing like the contractions she'd been warned about. As they walked back toward their neighborhood, however, something changed. A sharper pain gripped Olivia's abdomen, causing her to stop walking and grab Madeline's arm for support. That wasn't Braxton Hicks, Madeline said, concern evident in her voice. No, Olivia agreed, breathing through the pain. I think that was the real thing. Madeline checked her watch. Let's time the next one. In the meantime, let's get you home. They made it back to the penthouse just as another contraction hit, this one strong enough to make Olivia gasp. 12 minutes apart, Madeline noted, helping her to the sofa while keeping an eye on Sophia, who was watching with wide-eyed concern. I'm calling Alexander. It's too early, Olivia protested. First babies take forever. He'll just worry. Let him worry, Madeline replied firmly, already dialing. That's his job right now. Alexander arrived home in a record time, his face a mixture of excitement and anxiety. How are you feeling? How far apart are the contractions? Should we go to the hospital? Slow down, Olivia laughed, then winced as another contraction began. They're about 10 minutes apart now. The doctor said not to come in until they're 5 minutes apart or my water breaks. I should get Sophia home, Madeline said, but I can come back if you need me. Actually, Olivia said, reaching for her hand. Would you mind staying? At least until we need to go to the hospital. I'd feel better having you here. Madeline looked surprised but pleased. Of course. Let me just call the nanny to come watch Sophia at my place. The next few hours passed in a blur of increasing contractions. Alexander timed them meticulously while Madeline offered practical advice and comfort. When Olivia's water broke shortly after midnight, the atmosphere shifted from waiting to urgent action. Hospital time, Madeline announced, already gathering the packed hospital bag. I'll bring the car around, Alexander said, kissing Olivia's forehead before hurrying to the elevator. You're going to do great, Madeline assured Olivia as she helped her into a clean dress. Just remember to breathe through the contractions and rest between them. This part is hard, but it's finite. It will end, and then you'll meet your baby. Olivia nodded, grateful for the calm, experienced guidance. Thank you for being here. Where else would I be? Madeline replied simply. The drive to the hospital was tense, with contractions coming faster and stronger. By the time they arrived, Olivia was fully in the grip of active labor. 6 centimeters dilated already, the nurse announced after the initial examination. This baby might be coming faster than we expected. Alexander looked pale but determined as he held Olivia's hand through each contraction. Madeline waited in the family lounge, sending periodic texts of encouragement. 3 hours later, as dawn broke over the city, Olivia gave the final push that brought their child into the world. It's a boy, the doctor announced, placing the squalling infant on Olivia's chest. A son, Alexander whispered, tears streaming unashamedly down his face. We have a son. Olivia stared in wonder at the tiny, red-faced person in her arms, overwhelmed by a love so fierce and immediate that it took her breath away. Hello, little one, she murmured. We've been waiting for you. After the initial bonding time and the first feeding, Alexander went to the waiting room to share the news with Madeline. A boy, he told her, his face radiant with joy. 7 pounds, 3 ounces, perfect in every way. Madeline embraced him warmly. Congratulations, Dad. How's Olivia? Exhausted but amazing, he replied. She's asking for you if you'd like to meet him. In the recovery room, Olivia looked up from her newborn son's face as Madeline entered. Come meet the newest member of our unconventional family, she invited. Madeline approached the bed, her expression soft with wonder as she gazed at the baby. He's beautiful, she said. Absolutely perfect. Would you like to hold him? Olivia offered. Carefully, Madeline took the swaddled infant in her arms, cradling him with the practiced ease of an experienced mother. Hello, little man, she said softly. Welcome to the world. You have quite the family waiting for you. We were thinking of naming him Thomas, Alexander said, after my grandfather. Thomas, Madeline repeated, smiling down at the baby. It suits him. As the 3 adults gathered around the newest addition to their lives, Olivia felt a profound sense of rightness. This was her family, not the one she had imagined perhaps, but the one she had found. A husband who had proven his love and loyalty beyond any doubt. A friend who had once been a perceived rival but was now an essential part of their support system. 2 children who would grow up surrounded by love and care. And it had all begun with a misunderstanding. A stray piece of lingerie that could have torn them apart, but had instead led them to this moment of perfect completion. Thomas Alexander Blackwood, Olivia said softly, watching as her son's tiny fingers curled around Madeline's pinky. Welcome to our family. The first weeks of Thomas's life passed in a blur of sleepless nights, endless feedings, and moments of such profound joy that Olivia sometimes found herself weeping from the sheer intensity of it all. Alexander proved to be an exceptionally hands-on father, changing diapers with surprising dexterity and walking the floors with Thomas during midnight crying sessions so Olivia could rest. You're a natural at this, she told him one morning, finding them both asleep in the nursery rocking chair. Thomas nestled securely against his father's chest. Alexander blinked awake, smiling tiredly. He finally settled around 4. I didn't want to risk moving him. Olivia leaned down to kiss them both, her husband's forehead, her son's downy head. I love you. Both of you, so much. We love you too, Alexander replied. Don't we, Thomas? The baby responded with a tiny yawn that made both parents smile. True to their word, both grandmothers arrived to help, Eleanor from Chicago, Margaret from London. If either woman found the frequent presence of Madeline and Sophia unusual, they kept their opinions to themselves. In fact, by the end of the first week, Eleanor and Madeline had developed a surprising rapport, bonding over their shared love of art and architecture. Your mother is fascinating, Madeline told Olivia one afternoon, as they watched Eleanor reading to both Sophia and Thomas in the living room. Did you know she studied at the Sorbonne in the 60s? She has the most incredible stories about Paris during the student protests. She doesn't talk about that time much, Olivia said, surprised. My father always dismissed it as her bohemian phase before she settled down to be a proper corporate wife. Madeline made a face. No wonder she doesn't mention it. How diminishing. The observation gave Olivia a new perspective on her mother, not just as a parent, but as a woman with her own history, her own dreams and disappointments. It was a perspective she might never have gained without Madeline's insight. As the weeks passed and they settled into a routine with Thomas, Olivia found herself reflecting on the extraordinary journey that had brought them to this point. One evening, as she nursed Thomas in the nursery, Alexander came in with a small, gift-wrapped package. What's this? She asked, shifting Thomas to her shoulder to burp him. Just a little something to mark the occasion, Alexander replied, sitting on the ottoman beside her rocking chair. Olivia opened the package one-handed to reveal a small velvet box. Inside was a delicate gold locket on a fine chain. When she pressed the tiny clasp, it opened to reveal 2 miniature photographs, Thomas on one side, Sophia on the other. Alexander, she breathed, touched beyond words. It's beautiful. I wanted you to have something to keep them both close to your heart, he explained, taking Thomas so she could put on the necklace. Our son and our goddaughter, the children who made us a family. Olivia fingered the locket, emotion welling up inside her. Sometimes I think about how differently things could have turned out, she said quietly. If I hadn't found that brassiere, or if I'd refused to go to the hospital that night. But you did go, Alexander reminded her. You gave Madeline a chance to explain, gave me a chance to make things right. Your capacity for forgiveness, for understanding, that's what created this family, Liv. Not just me, she corrected him. All of us. Your willingness to help Madeline when she needed it, her courage in reaching out despite your history, my decision to open my heart instead of closing it. We all played a part. Thomas, now full and content, dozed in his father's arms. Alexander gazed down at his son with undisguised adoration. I never thought I could be this happy, he admitted. After Madeline and I divorced, I resigned myself to the idea that I might never have children. Then I met you, and hope returned. But this, he gestured around them, encompassing their home, their son, their life together. This exceeds anything I could have imagined. Me too, Olivia agreed softly. Though I have to admit, if someone had described our current situation to me 4 years ago, I would have thought they were insane. Alexander chuckled. What, you mean the part where we live in domestic bliss with my ex-wife and her daughter just a few blocks away? Sharing holidays and babysitting duties? Exactly that part, Olivia laughed. And yet, I wouldn't change a thing. As Thomas grew from newborn to infant, his personality began to emerge. A serious, observant baby who studied the world with his father's gray eyes and his mother's thoughtful expression. Sophia, now approaching her 2nd birthday, appointed herself his unofficial protector and entertainer, bringing him toys and reading to him from her picture books. Thomas, smile, she would announce proudly whenever she succeeded in coaxing a gummy grin from the baby. The bond between the children delighted all 3 parents. They began a tradition of Sunday dinners together, alternating between the penthouse and Madeline's house, creating memories and rituals that would shape both children's understanding of family. Do you think they'll find it strange when they're older? Madeline asked one evening as they watched the children playing on a blanket in the living room. Our arrangement, I mean. Probably, Alexander acknowledged. But they'll also know they're loved by more people than most children are. That can only be a good thing. Besides, Olivia added, families come in all forms now. Blended, extended, chosen. Ours is just uniquely configured. Uniquely configured, Madeline repeated with a smile. I like that. As Thomas approached his 1st birthday, Olivia's interior design business faced a significant opportunity. A commission to redesign a boutique hotel chain's flagship property in San Francisco. The project would require several trips to the West Coast over a 6-month period, something that would have been impossible during Thomas's early months. You should take it, Alexander encouraged when she showed him the proposal. It's exactly the kind of high-profile project you've been waiting for. But the travel, Olivia hesitated. I don't want to leave you alone with Thomas for days at a time. He'll hardly be alone, Madeline pointed out, having stopped by with Sophia for their weekly playdate. Between Alexander, me, and both grandmothers on speed dial, Thomas will have plenty of care, and you'll be back every few days. Are you sure? Olivia asked, looking between them. Absolutely, Alexander assured her. Your career matters too, Liv. We'll make it work. And they did. During Olivia's trips to San Francisco, Alexander adjusted his schedule to work from home more often. Madeline stepped in to help with childcare, sometimes bringing both children to her house so Alexander could attend important meetings. The arrangement required flexibility and communication from all of them, but it worked, a testament to the strength of the bonds they had formed. On Thomas's 1st birthday, they held a small celebration at the penthouse. Both sets of grandparents attended, along with a few close friends who had come to accept the unconventional nature of their family without judgment. To Thomas, Alexander proposed a toast as they gathered around the cake. And to family, in all its wonderful, unexpected forms. To family, everyone echoed, raising their glasses. Later, as the party wound down and Thomas dozed in his grandfather's arms, Olivia found herself on the terrace with Madeline, watching the sunset paint the city skyline in shades of gold and pink. I never thanked you, Madeline said suddenly. For what? Olivia asked. For not hating me, Madeline replied simply. When you found my brassiere in Alexander's pocket, you had every right to assume the worst. Most women would have. I almost did, Olivia admitted. If Alexander hadn't convinced me to come to the hospital that night. But you did come, Madeline said. And instead of seeing me as a threat, you eventually saw me as a person who needed help. That kind of compassion is rare, Olivia. It changed my life, and Sophia's. Olivia was touched by the sincerity in Madeline's voice. You've changed our lives too, she said. You've shown me that forgiveness isn't just about letting go of anger. It's about making space for new possibilities. Inside, they could hear Sophia's delighted laughter as Alexander pretended to search for her during a game of hide-and-seek, her not very hidden form clearly visible behind the curtains. New possibilities indeed, Madeline smiled, nodding toward the scene. 2 years after Thomas's birth, on a crisp autumn day, much like the one when Olivia had discovered she was pregnant with him, the extended family gathered at the Blackwoods Hamptons house for a weekend retreat. The children, now 3 and 5, raced across the lawn under the watchful eyes of their grandparents, while the 3 adults relaxed on the patio. I have news, Madeline announced, setting down her glass of lemonade. I've been offered a position heading the New York office of Sustainable Urban Design International. Madeline, that's fantastic, Alexander exclaimed. It's the perfect role for you. Congratulations, Olivia added warmly. When do you start? Next month, Madeline replied. It means more responsibility, but also more flexibility to work from home when needed. She watched Sophia showing Thomas how to make a leaf pile. The children are my priority now. Speaking of children, Olivia said, exchanging a glance with Alexander, we have some news too. Madeline looked between them, her expression curious. Don't tell me, Olivia nodded, smiling. We're expecting again, due in April. That's wonderful, Madeline exclaimed, embracing them both. Sophia will be thrilled. She's been asking for more babies in the family. We're hoping for a girl this time, Alexander admitted, though we'll be happy either way, of course. A girl would balance things out nicely, Madeline agreed. Sophia could use another female ally in this family. As the afternoon light softened into evening, the 3 adults called the children in for dinner. Watching Thomas and Sophia race toward them, faces flushed with excitement and exertion, Olivia felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over her. 3 years ago, she had found another woman's lingerie in her husband's pocket and assumed the worst. That moment of crisis could have ended her marriage, could have sent all their lives spinning in different, separate directions. Instead, through forgiveness, compassion, and an openness to unconventional possibilities, it had led them here, to this expanded definition of family, to this abundance of love. Later that night, as she and Alexander prepared for bed in their room overlooking the ocean, Olivia found herself thinking about the pale pink brassiere that had started it all. Do you ever wonder what happened to it? She asked. Madeline's lingerie? Alexander looked up from his book, surprised by the question. I believe Rebecca returned it to her? Why do you ask? I was just thinking about how something so small, so insignificant, could have such profound consequences, she explained, resting her hand on her stomach, where their second child was just beginning to make its presence known. If I hadn't found it that day? But you did, Alexander said, setting aside his book to pull her close. And look where it led us. Outside their window, the moon cast a silver path across the dark water, a reminder that even in the deepest night, light finds a way to shine through. Olivia leaned into her husband's embrace, thinking of the family sleeping under their roof, their son, their goddaughter, the woman who had once been a perceived rival but was now a beloved friend, the grandparents who had expanded their own definitions of family to include this unconventional arrangement. It led us home, she whispered, to a home bigger and more beautiful than I ever imagined possible. And as they drifted to sleep, wrapped in each other's arms with the sound of the ocean in the background, Olivia knew with absolute certainty that sometimes what appears to be the end of everything is actually just the beginning of something extraordinary. The pale pink brassiere that had once symbolized betrayal had, through a strange alchemy of forgiveness and compassion, transformed into the first thread of a tapestry more rich and complex than any of them could have designed alone. A family created not by blood or convention, but by choice, by love, and by the courage to see beyond appearances to the truth that lay beneath. If you enjoyed this story about forgiveness, unconventional families, and finding blessings in unexpected places, please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more heartwarming stories that remind us of the power of compassion and understanding. Share in the comments below if you've ever had a misunderstanding that ultimately led to something beautiful in your life. Remember, sometimes what seems like an ending is actually just the beginning of something extraordinary. Thank you for joining me for this story hour, and I'll see you next time.